Ever been to Jellicoe, Tennessee? Well, that's where we're going today. And it is on the outskirts of Jellicoe. Jellicoe's a very rural part of Campbell County. There is I-75 that runs right straight through it, and it's actually called Jellicoe Mountain. Let's see who we can find here today. All right, here we are. We're at the Holt Cemetery. And like I said at the opening, it is named Jellicoe. Now, for those of you history buffs, it was founded in 1878. But in that time, it was called Smithburg. Bet you didn't know that. It was a village of Smithburg. But following all the awesome coal they could find there and the arrival of the railroad, the town was renamed Jellicoe and officially incorporated in 1883. So, from Smithburg to Jellicoe, that's what we got. It is a historic place to be. My grandparents actually got married in Jellicoe, Tennessee. So, there's a little thing to know. But anyway, this is the Holt Cemetery, and we didn't find any photos of the cemetery itself, but it is located off of I-75. It is right on the Kentucky and Tennessee line, so it's really close, and it's actually close to a park called Indian Mountain State Park. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to look that up, Google it, and see what you can find there. I mean, I've never been there yet, but I do plan on going there. We've heard it's a beautiful area. So, don't know. I've heard of it, but I've never been there. Now, this cemetery was established in 1877, so that's about around the time that people actually were moving in the area. And there are 55 people buried here. So, we'll get started. First one is Evelyn Lochner Bowersock. Now that is hard to say. Bowersocks. 1919 to 1982. And that's not too old. But she was born in Baltimore. She passed away in Florida. And we believe that they buried her here because this was where her son lived. And now we have David Corbin, 1876 to 1912. Alice Smith Goins, 1881 to 1951. We have her husband, Doc Goins, 1878 to 1963. Now, he was born in Tennessee, but we don't have a picture of his grave, unfortunately. And then we have Howard Goins, 1911 to 1938. Now, there's a little history about Howard. He was murdered just inside of Kentucky. And I'm going to read you a little newspaper clipping that we found of his death. It says, this is from the journal, Jellicoe man meets death. Jake Davis charged with fatal shooting of Howard Goins. On January 9th, Jake Davis, night watchman for the Interstate Wholesale Company, here was being held without bond at the Whitley County Jail at Williamsburg tonight, charged with the fatal shooting early today of Howard Goins, 28-year-old filling station operator. Officers said the shooting resulted from strained relationships growing out of the Davis intention of appearing before the grand jury Monday as a witness against Howard's brother, Ed Goins. The shooting was said to have taken place shortly after midnight when Goins allegedly walked up to him and threatened to kill him if he persisted in intention to serve as a witness in the grand jury's consideration of charges that Ed Goins, raincoat factory employee, was the person who shot and wounded red shepherd here a week ago. Officers said Davis warned Goins to come no closer and fired twice when the man continued to advance on him. The first bullet was said to have passed under Goins' arm, but the second lodged in his breast, and he died in his home at 8 a.m. the next morning. So, yeah, there's a lot of things went on there. So that was a little bit hard to read, but anyway, yeah, unfortunately that happens. So let's move on. We got Daniel Wilson Holt, 1838 to 1905. We found a picture of him. You can see him right there. And then this is his wife, Elizabeth Lawson Holt, 1838 to 1877. Just look at the wall the family put around her grave. And this is her modern day headstone. Next we have Lucinda Holt, 1870 to 1925. And beside her is her husband, Noah Holt, 1864 to 1934. And then we have their son, Roscoe Holt, 1907 to 1916. And according to his death certificate that we found, you can see it right here, that he was ran over by an automobile when he was 9 years old. Tragedy. Tragic, tragic. And you think, like that was 1916. How fast can an automobile go? But who knows? You may have ran right out in front of him, and hey, them cars, I guess they could go. I don't know. But anyway, we have Nancy Jane Holt. She was born in 1933 and only lived for 11 months. Stella Holt, 1900 to 1921, young lady. Thomas Holt, 1891 to 1916. William L. Holt, 1913 to 1948. Next is William Marion Holt. They called him Bill, 1878 to 1956. Now this picture shows Bill with his first wife, Molly Cunningham Holt, and several of their children. And next we have Joseph Leach, 1862 to 1928, with his wife, Mary E. Holt Leach, 1862 to 1946. Then there's Lucinda Leach. She was born in September of 1892, and she passed only 10 months later. Ollie Ellen Leach, 1910 to 1915, only 5 years old. Oh. Virgie May Leach, 1916 to 1920. She was just under 4 years old when she passed. Wow, there's a lot of children in here. Next we have, unfortunately, another child. Billy Mundy, only 7 years old, 1936 to 1943. And look at that little praying angel in his headstone. Isn't that sweet? We have his father, Jess Mundy, 1912 to 1989. Johnny Ray Mundy. He was born and he died March 23rd, 1973. And next is Nancy Carroll Mundy, 1896 to 1976. And next to her is her husband, R. Brownlow Mundy, 1894 to 1976. And he passed away about 3 months before Nancy. So that's sad. Then there's Nudie Mundy. That is an unusual name for me. 1923 to 1974. And Patsy Mundy, 1939 to 1943, and she was only 4 years old. There's another child. Ansel Ferris Moses, 1899 to 1972. Next to him is his wife, Cora Della Smith Moses, 1903 to 1974. Then their son, James Andrew Moses, and he was known as Jimmy, 1933 to 1965. Now, Jimmy served as a corporal with the 226th Signal Company in the U.S. Army during the Korean War. Now, this is Ansel and Cora's daughter. If you remember Ansel and Cora, we just said. Mary Ruth Moses, 1934 to 1939. So there was another child they lost, only 4 years old. Devastating. Barry Dean Paul, he was born on May the 24th, and he passed away the following day of 1960. Daniel Paul, 1882 to 1956, and his wife Elizabeth. She was born in 1888, but we don't have a death date on her. Couldn't find it. Then there's Elizabeth Paul, 1922 to 1932, only 10 years old. Ooh. Anthony Smith, 1849 to 1908. Charles A. Smith, 1907 to 1977. We have an infant daughter of the Smith family, and we believe this baby was born in 1918. Probably born and died. Not sure. Don't have a death date, but that's more likely the case here. James Henry Smith, 1874 to 1950. James Lewis Smith, 1913 to 1962. Eliza Thompson, 1889 to 1911. Gertrude Smith Trammell, yes, 1910 to 1973. Clorinda, oh, that's a pretty name. Clorinda A. Woods Vanderpool. She was born in 1868, but we couldn't find a death date for her. But this is a picture of her and her husband, James. So she wasn't an infant. She wasn't a child. She was actually a married lady. So very pretty name, too. I like that. We have another Cora. Cora Williams, 1893 to 1894. Only 10 months old again. Wow. Lewis Williams, 1870 to 1950. And his wife, Margaret Holt Williams, 1870 to 1922. And look at the cross carved on the face of her headstone. Isn't that pretty? Here's Wilson Williams. He was born April of 1916, and he passed away 2 months later. Man, this little small cemetery's got a lot of kids. Babies, wow. Okay, so there's 7 people buried here. No pictures of the grave, but they are, we do know, Lucy Goins, 1848 to 1935. Anna Jane Holt, she was born in February of 1933, and she died in January of 1934 at 11 months old. So you know that baby was just starting to walk. How heartbreaking. And now we have Nanny Jane Holt, 1870 to 1932. Dan Paul, and we have no dates for him. And John W. Pennington, 1899, 1969. Maggie Young Smith, she was born 1877, but there's not a death date for her. And the very last person that we found in this cemetery is William Bart Smith, 1871 to 1949. So, that cemetery seen a lot of tears shed over all those children and their loved ones too. But boy, those children just, I mean, they tug at your heart, and having to bury your child is just worst thing you can think of. But that's going to finish our look at the Holt Cemetery in Campbell County, right on the Kentucky and Tennessee border. So Whitley County, you've heard of Whitley County, Kentucky, and then there's Jellicoe in this little area right here. That's where it's at. And like I said, tragic things has happened. This guy getting shot for, really to keep his mouth shut. That was bad. But the children, that's what got to me on this one. But we'd like to thank all of our new subscribers. Thank you for watching. We're going to try to get out some more videos. Maybe another one this week. Hey, let's see. Anyway, We will see you next time, if the good Lord's willing. God bless. Hit that subscribe button if you don't care. Invite, share. Come on in. Let's find some history together. See you next time. Bye-bye.